Hey guys, welcome back to another video of the games I beat during the year 2020. A yearly tradition that I have on my channel, and in fact if you check the description section below, I'm going to link to the previous year's videos. And yeah, 2020 was a very productive year in terms of completing games, a record year for me here on my channel since I started documenting the games I completed. This year I finished a grand total of 57 games, which again, it's a record number of games, and I think it had to do a lot with having extra time with the pandemic situation, working from home. So I was able to save up and have more free time to do more gaming, which is pretty cool. I do plan of doing my top games of 2020, but as you guys know, I take a while to do those videos, so a couple months from now I'll probably do my top games of 2020, but these are just the games that I completed and finished for the year of 2020. Multiple different games from different systems and eras. And in fact, the system breakdown shows that I've been a little bit more involved on PC. I completed, out of the 57 games, 32 were from PC and or Steam, and then I had 8 games for the PS4, 5 for the PS3 system, 4 for Stadia. I have 3 Xbox One games, and then only 2 Nintendo Switch games, kind of surprising. 2 Super Nintendo games played through the Nintendo Switch system, and then 1 Nintendo 3DS game. So I think that totals up 57 games. But without further ado, let's just get started with the list. The first game I beat early in the year was A Bird Story, a indie game from the same developers that created To the Moon, which is a fantastic game, one of my favorite indie kind of like RPG Maker type of titles that I played on Steam. I have an impressions video on that game. I made one many years ago, and A Bird Story, it's part of a trilogy of games. Very short game, it only takes about an hour or two to complete it, so very happy to finally play a Bird Story. The second game, it's another indie short game, Radiant One. Based on the good reviews, I tried to give it a shot. I wasn't too impressed with it. It has like emotional things going on for the game. It tries to pull your heartstrings and whatnot, but I didn't find it that interesting. Very short game, it takes about an hour to complete, and it's super cheap on Steam. At number 3, we have FIFA 20. On the PS4. I consider sports games complete when you complete one season without simulating any games. So that's what I did with the FIFA 20. I played with Leicester City from the Premier League. I played like a season or two with them, and it was fun. I put about 15 hours if I had to guess. It's always fun playing the FIFA games every year. The fourth game I beat was Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 1. I played this on the PlayStation Now service. This is the PS3 version of the game. I have an impressions video on this. Let me just say that I was very disappointed in this game. The harsh reviews from back then, I guess, were true. Sonic 4 is just not a very solid title, and it doesn't do justice to the classic games in terms of the reimagining the classic elements, unfortunately. At number 5, Sonic the Fighters for the PlayStation 3, also played through the PlayStation Now service. A fighting game starring Sonic characters. That was like the main draw, the reason why I wanted to play this game. It's a little bit on the old side. Obviously, this game already has been out for many years, so a little bit dated in terms of graphics and gameplay mechanics, but I just wanted to experience this kind of hidden Sonic game. It's one that you don't hear often enough, so I was I was happy to play that game. The sixth game that I have here on my list is the King of Fighters 98 Ultimate Match Final Edition. This is on PC, Steam version of the game, and fantastic classic fighting games. I'm a pretty big fan of classic old school fighting games, and the King of Fighters series is a series that I absolutely love. And out of the old school, 1990s King of Fighter games, I think 98 is one of the best because it has an ample roster, very solid gameplay mechanics, and it was fun re-exploring this game on Steam. At number 7, a game that I have an impressions video, a Letter Quest remastered on Steam. I put around 15 hours on this game. It's a word, Letter Quest type of game with RPG elements. Very fun, and again, I put around 15 hours, so I was very impressed, and it was very addicting, just very easy to pick up and play. And of course, you can use the computer keyboard to enter the words and whatnot. So very fun title on Steam. The 8th game that I have here on my list is R-Type. I played this. This is the PS3 version. It's kind of like the remaster version of R-Type. And it's a super difficulty game. This is a classic, shmup or shooter, horizontal shooter that I'm very glad the game has the option to have unlimited continuous, because it's one of those super tough games that I don't know how in the world would you beat this game. Obviously, if you play with unlimited continuous, it's a super short game. But I just played it to experience the new version of R-Type, and just to see what the game was all about. It's a classic shooter, so it was fun exploring that game. The 9th game I have here is Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. I bought this for dirt cheap on a Steam sale. And in fact, I own the game on the PS3, but I haven't played it yet, which is weird because I'm a huge fan of Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transformed, which is a game that I bought it on Wii U on day one. But this is a fantastic kart racing game. It rivals Mario Kart, in my opinion, in terms of fun factor. Unfortunately, the Steam version is a little bit buggy, so once you get the settings right, the game runs normally. But yeah, fantastic kart racing, Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. The 10th game I have on my list is Pikuniku, which is a very relaxing adventure platforming game, very similar to the Kirby games. It's a very easy and relaxing game, pretty short. I bought it on sale for Steam. Under $1, I think, so can't go wrong. I think it takes about 4 hours to complete the game, and I do have an impressions video on this game if you guys want to check it out, but highly recommend it for a relaxing adventure and experience. On number 11, I have R-Type 2. I know it goes hand in hand with the R-Type 1. This is part of that remastered re-release of the R-Type games. This is the PS3 version that I played through PS Now. Same deal, super challenging and difficult classic shooter game that I'm glad I was able to use the unlimited continuous in order to complete the game. At number 12, a big surprise for me, a SteamWorld Quest, Hand of Gilgamesh. I played this through the Stadia service. It was part of the one of the Pro games. I put around 20 hours in this, and I have an impressions video also for this game, but a very engaging card-based game with RPG elements. I'm not very big on the card, card battle genre of games, but this game really changed my mind, and I do want to explore other games like Slay the Spire and Monster Train after playing SteamWorld Quest. Fantastic game, don't sleep on it. If you want to try card games, this is a good starting point in my opinion. At number 13, I have Resident Evil 2 for the PlayStation 4. Only completed 2 scenarios. I have to go back because Resident Evil 2, it's one of the best remakes. It was my favorite game of 2019. I'm a huge Resident Evil fan, and I can fully vouch for this fantastic remake. If you haven't played this game yet, make sure you purchase it because it's fantastic. At number 14, Tekken 7. I played this on the PS4. A little bit of a disappointment for me. I always wanted to get into the Tekken series. I know it's a highly acclaimed fighting series, but like I mentioned before, I'm more into classic fighting games like the King of Fighters and whatnot. So Tekken 7 didn't really impress me a whole lot. I did play the adventure mode and completed that. It took me around 4 hours, but wasn't overly impressed, and I guess this is my lesson that the Tekken games are just not for me. At number 15, I have Donut County, a indie physics-based weird game on the PS4. It only takes about 2 to 3 hours to complete the game, but it's a very fun one. If you can find this on sale, it's a very unique physics-based game where you just have to create holes and kind of like suck the environment up. A very weird thematic, but interesting characters and weird story. So if you can find that game on sale, I recommend it. At number 16, we have an Xbox One game, Bleeding Edge. This is an exclusive game for the Xbox One, released through Game Pass. It's one of those games that are trying to capture the trend of the moment, which are all these competitive multiplayer games. I personally had a ton of fun with Bleeding Edge. I put around 20 hours, got all the achievements, and I had a lot of fun with the game playing online. But it's one of those games that if the developer doesn't support it with new modes and levels right away, it dies really quick. So unfortunately, I think the game has a pretty small community nowadays, but nevertheless, I was very happy to try it, through the Game Pass service, and I put 20 hours on it, so I had a pretty good amount of fun playing that game. At number 17, one of the best games of 2019, in my opinion, Control. I played this on the PS4. Fantastic game. Put around 20 hours in this game. One of the best third-person shooters out there. Just play this game. I even got the Platinum Trophy because I enjoyed it so much. A fantastic game. Don't sleep on it. It's a great game. At number 18, another great game that was released originally in 2019. A Plague Tale Innocence. I also played this on the PS4. Also got the Platinum Trophy because I enjoyed this game so much. Deals with the pandemic and the Black Plague, that wiped out part of Europe, back in the day. Fantastic game. Very emotional story of two siblings. Highly recommended. I also have an impressions video talking about this game. But A Plague Tale Innocence, don't sleep on it if you haven't played it yet. At number 19, speaking of classic fighting games, like I did previously, we have Fatal Fury Real Bout. This is for the PS4, but it's basically a port or a re-release from the Fatal Fury Battle Archives Volume 2 for the PS2. Can't go wrong with the Fatal Fury. I love the SNK fighters overall. So I did complete the arcade mode with a couple of characters, and it was pretty fun. Playing this classic fighting game. At number 20, speaking of classic games, we have the House of the Dead 3. This is a PlayStation 3 version that I played through the PS Now service, and this is a classic light gun shooter with cheesy characters and dialogue and storyline. But it's just fun. The House of the Dead games are just silly fun, and this game is no exception. So that's that. At number 21, I have Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown for the PS4. Love this game. I never really gave a proper try to the Ace Combat series. Played a bunch of previous titles, but didn't go into details with them. But Ace Combat 7 really took me by surprise, and I completed the game, put around 13 hours in it, and I do have an impressions video. Make sure you check that out for my fully extended thoughts. At number 22, Fire Emblem, the Three Houses for the Nintendo Switch. Man, this game, I put around 65 hours. I did a playthrough with the Golden Deer house, and then I started a Black Eagles playthrough. Didn't get too far, but I do have to go back to this game because if you guys enjoy strategy RPGs, Fire Emblem Three Houses is one of the best. In my opinion, it's probably the best Fire Emblem game to date. So much replay value. Great characters, great storyline. You cannot go wrong with Fire Emblem The Three Houses. Number 23, speaking of classic RPG series, I have Ys 2 Chronicles. I played these on Steam, and it was putting closer to the first two Ys books. I played Ys 1 back a couple years ago on the PlayStation Vita, and then got sidetracked, and I was never able to finish the second book or Ys 2 until this year. So very happy that I did. This is a very classic action RPG that still maintains the old school mechanics with the bump and run fighting or combat system, but nevertheless very fun despite the old school mechanics. And at number 24, playing Ys 2 kicked kicked that Ys bug in me, and trigger me to play other Ys games. And the Oath of Infelgana was one that I really wanted to play, and I'm glad I finally did. I played this on Steam as well, and this is basically an Ys 3 reimagining or remake, if you will. Oath in Volgana is a fantastic game, from the gameplay to the music, which is fantastic. This is definitely one of the best Ys games, and if you guys can find this on sale, please make sure you buy it and experience this game. It's a challenging game, but nevertheless a very fun experience for the Ys games. At number 25, we have Crimson Clover World Ignition for Steam. This is a bullet hell shooter indie title that's often on sale for a very low price. So if you guys are into trying kind of like unheard of shmups, make sure you try Crimson Clover. This game is fantastic. It has a lot of things going on in the screen. You collect stars, and the amount of points that you get from kills is just absolutely insane. Very fun, very addicting, and of course it's very affordable when it's on sale. So I highly recommend it that you guys check out Crimson Clover on Steam. At number 26, going back to the Ys games, we have Ys 6, The Ark of Napishtim. I put around 14 hours in this game. I'm very glad to complete it because it kind of introduces valuable information about tying into the Ys universe and previous games. Love this game. Not as good as Oath in Volgana or Ys Origin, but I really enjoyed this game from what I played, and I was very excited to put a check mark on playing that game. And I'm almost done with all the Ys games. That's one of my goals for 2021. I want to finish off the series. I only have to play two or three more games in order to play them all, but very excited to do that in 2021. At number 27, we have an indie platforming game, Tiny Dangerous Dungeons, on Steam. You can beat this game in around an hour. The game is super cheap. You can probably get it under $1 when it's on sale. And it deals with, it's basically a classic platforming game that pays tribute to the Game Boy, not the Game Boy Color, but just the regular Game Boy with the green and black backgrounds and whatnot. Very fun game. If you guys enjoyed games like Super Mario Land on the Game Boy, this is definitely a polished, modern kind of game, but it still maintains that retro look for the Game Boy. And a very fun game, very short experience, but pretty sweet. At number 28, speaking of short games, we have Gunman Clive on Steam. I already completed this game on the 3DS a couple years ago, and in fact, I think I have a video about it. Very underrated indie game, shooting game with platforming elements. If you guys are into like Mega Man games, this is sort of similar, but it has its own spin, with the Western theme on it. Very fun game, very short, but also very cheap. So make sure you try it if you're interested in it. At number 29, we have another indie platforming Game Boy classic tribute game, if you will, called Squidlet. Also on Steam. The game takes about an hour or two to complete, so make sure you try it out if you can find it for under $1 like I did. It's well worth it if you guys are into remembering the old school Game Boy games. Pretty fun title. At number 30, we have Rat Rogers World 1 on Steam. It took me around 3 hours. This is yet another platforming shooter game that was at one point kickstarted. And unfortunately, this is just the first world. And the first world has, I believe, like 7 or 8 levels or something like that. The game was supposed to be expanded, but I don't think it never did. It's kind of like a cheesy game with cheesy dialogue, and it just pays tribute to the early 90s platforming games. The dialogue is a little bit on the cringy side, but nevertheless, I had a lot of fun in terms of the gameplay of the game. Yeah, it was fun. Hopefully they can finish and complete the game at one point. At number 31, we have yet another shmup or shooter, vertical shooter, Gunwings on Steam. This is one of the most popular bullet hell indie titles on Steam. It focuses on color coding your character with the enemy bullets. Very interesting mechanic, and you cannot go wrong. Very interesting art direction for the game. And again, this is one of those games that it's super cheap, and I highly recommend it if you guys are into shooter or shmup games. At number 32, we have Verdict Guilty, which is a classic indie fighting game. Not very good. It's not a very good game. The gameplay is a little bit on the tank side of things, but it's a very cheesy game that you buy it for the cheese factor pretty much. You can get this game for probably under $1, but I had so much fun that I completed the story mode with all the characters. The dialogue and everything is just so cheesy, so dumb. But it was an interesting title, indie fighting game on Steam that you can get it for dirt cheap. Number 33, we have Streets of Rage 4. I played this on the Xbox One, and it's the 2020 release, continuing from that trilogy from the Sega Genesis. I played this game both solo and then also with Leo the Funny Nerd online co-op. A very fun, beat 'em up. Excellent graphics, very crisp graphics. The gameplay is a little bit dated in my opinion, but I guess they were going for that retro feel. But overall, a very solid game. I'm really glad I played it through Game Pass, and it was a pretty fun game. At number 34, we have The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky first chapter. This is on Steam. Finally, this is a game that I've been meaning to play for the past few years, and I finally was able to do it. I have an impressions video on this, but let me just say that this is one of the best JRPGs I've played to date. Fantastic characters and storyline, and it's just the magical game that prompted me to get more interest in the Legend of Heroes series. Number 35, we have Sky on Steam. This is a free game, an indie flight game. Kind of reminds me of Pilot Wings, the plane missions. Very relaxing game that was made by a group of students, I believe. It's free on Steam. I highly recommend it if you guys try it. It's just a very relaxing game that offers about an hour or two of gameplay. And it's again a very relaxing game with a good soundtrack and charming graphics. Make sure you check that game out on Steam for free. At number 36, we have Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo through the Switch online service. We did a map out with the button mappers on this game, and I also made an impressions video. There's a ton of things that I can say about one of my favorite games of all time, but Super Mario World, it's one of the pinnacle platforming games out there. So it's a childhood favorite of mine, and I'm really glad I replayed the game for the umpteenth time in my lifetime. At number 37, speaking of classic platforming games, we have Sonic the Hedgehog. I played this on Steam. It's a part of the Sega Genesis Classics collection. Very fun game, very solid platforming. This is where it all started for the Sonic character. I'm not crazy about some of the level design, but I think that was amended in later games. But overall, a very solid and classic platforming game worth of your attention if you haven't played Sonic 1. At number 38, continuing with the Trails in the Sky craziness, I completed the Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky second chapter on Steam. Put around 60 hours in this game. If you completed the first game and enjoyed it, there's no way you're not going to play the second one. The first game ends in a cliffhanger, and then of course the second one continues right after. Fantastic JRPG. Again, excellent character development, fantastic world building. If you guys enjoy JRPGs, and you haven't tried the Trails in the Sky series, make sure you do it, because these games are top notch in that regard. At number 39, going back to the fun platformers, another childhood favorite of mine, Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo. I played this through the Switch online service. Another classic game that I really have a ton of fun memories. It's one of the best platforming games in my opinion out there. And hopefully in 2021, I can complete the second one and the third one, which I believe are already available on the Nintendo Switch online Super Nintendo service. At number 40, another Xbox One Game Pass game that was released on day one, Hot Shot Racing. This game is also available in other systems, but as part of the Game Pass, I tried it. It's a very fun game. It kind of pays tribute to like virtual racing and the Daytona USA type of graphical style of games. Very fun title, pretty short but sweet, and I'm really glad I was able to play it on through Game Pass because it was a very fun racing title. Now, the opposite here, we have a number 41, Borrow F, which is a Steam game. It's an indie racing game that you can often get for less than 50 cents. It's kind of like a meme racing game that I decided to just to give it a shot. It has terrible physics, but I was able to complete all 12 tracks. The hook for me was this is based on classic Formula One cars, the liveries of the cars. It's a trashy indie game, but it was fun for a good laugh. I think I played it around 2 hours and completed all the tracks in it. At number 42, another fantastic game, Resident Evil: The Remake. I played this game so many times. This time around on Steam, we did a map out video with the button mappers. Resident Evil Remake is one of my favorite games of all time. I love the Resident Evil series, so there's not a whole lot else to say other than this is one of the best staple games regarding the survival horror genre. A fantastic game. And going with the scary game theme, I guess, at number 43, I have Zombie Army 4 Dead War. I played this through Stadia because it was one of the pro games. Put around 24 hours in this game, combining both the single-player campaign and the online multiplayer, which was really, really fun. It's a 2020 release, and I was very surprised with it. I never got around to playing the previous game, Zombie Army Trilogy, but these games are very, very fun, shooting, hordes of zombies, different weapons, and just an overall chaotic gameplay, but very, very fun. So I was pleasantly surprised with Zombie Army 4. At number 44, we have Samurai Showdown, the 2019 game. I played this also through Stadia, through their pro service, service. Loved this game. I was a little bit skeptical because Kino Fighters 14 was not to my liking. I didn't really like that game too much. But for Samurai Showdown 2019, SNK used a new physics engine, and the graphics are great. The gameplay is very solid, and loved everything about this game. So I'm definitely looking forward to going back into that game in 2021 because I really, really enjoyed it. At number 45, we have a indie, I guess, a horror Japanese game with Mad Father. Loved this game. It's one of those. It's one of the most popular RPG Maker-esque type of games on Steam that deals with. It's a Japanese game with a horror element, and it's one of those games that it's very critical acclaim. And I'm very happy that I finally was able to play the game, and that prompted me to play the next game, which is number 46 on my list, Misao, the Definitive Edition, also on Steam, which is yet another indie Japanese horror game by the same developer, and the two games tied together loosely, so make sure you check those two games out if you're interested in that genre. Personally, that opened the doors for me as far as indie RPG Maker type of games, so I do plan on playing more games and based on that genre in the future. At number 47, we have Sonic the Hedgehog 2, continuing with the classic Sonic games. What an improvement over the first one, in my opinion. Sonic 2 is just much better game in terms of the level design and the overall speed of the game and the gameplay as well. I played this on Steam, part of the Sega Genesis Classic Collection, so one of the classic platforming games of all time. I'm very happy to have played this game again in 2020. At number 48, we have Streets of Kamerocho, which was a limited release by Sega to commemorate their anniversary. This is basically a Streets of Rage clone that starring the Yakuza characters. It's a very short game. It's only one level. You can unlock a hidden character. It took me about 20 minutes, I think, to complete the game. But nevertheless, anything that's Yakuza related, sign me up, and I was happy to play this free game from Sega. At number 49, we have a surprising early access indie game that really took me by surprise, Gunfire Reborn. This is on Steam. And it's a first-person shooter roguelite with RPG elements and adventure elements. It's similar to Borderlands, if you will, in a way, but in a much smaller scale. But it's a very fun game. If you guys check it out, the reviews are overwhelmingly positive. Thousands and thousands of positive reviews for this game, and it's still on early access, which is a surprising part. Very fun game. Obviously I did play this online with like random people, and it was super fun. I do plan to go back to it because the developers, they keep adding new characters and new levels, and they keep rebalancing the game. So a very active game on Steam. So make sure you check it out because it's really, really fun. At number 50, we have the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time for the Nintendo 3DS. I played this as part of the map out that we did with the button mappers. Ocarina of Time, one of my favorite games of all time. Actually, my favorite game of all time. So for me, it was a pleasure to replay this game once again. And if you want to hear our extended thoughts, we have the map out video. But I also was planning on doing an impressions video, separate one for this game. So maybe for 2021, I'll be doing that. For number 51, we have Disco Elysium. In my opinion, one of the best 2019 releases. In 2021, it's going to get a final cut version. So if you guys haven't played this yet, please make sure you do it. Right now, it's available only on Steam, but the game will be released on consoles on 2021. One of the most unique games I've ever played. It's a CRPG, but there is no combat system. Everything is about investigation and finding new clues to solve a mystery, and also finding out who your character is, and deals with excellent elements, fantastic dialogue, and the writing in this game is just unmatched, unparalleled. So I have an impressions video on this if you guys want to hear my full thoughts on the game. But Disco Elysium, don't sleep on it. It's a fantastic title. At number 52, I decided to replay Ori and the Blind Forest, the definitive edition, a game that I already completed a few years ago on the Xbox One. And I replayed this game on Steam in preparation for my Ori and the Will of the Wisp playthrough. Instead of jumping straight into the sequel, I was like, you know what, I wanna replay Ori and the Blind Forest. It's one of my favorite Metroidvania games of all time, so might as well replay that to prep myself to play Will of the Wisp in 2021. So what can I say about Ori and the Blind Forest? One of the best Metroidvania games out there. Please buy this game if you haven't played it yet, because it's one of the best games out there. Yeah. And then at number 53, we have Outcasters. This is a exclusive game for Stadia. It's an online competitive game. I won every game mode, so that's how I consider this game completed. It's a super fun title, kind of like Fall Guys in a way. But it's kind of like their own version. This is a shooting game. I did a couple live streams of this game, and it surprised me a lot. It's a super fun title that I might do an impressions video just to shout out the game one more time. I know Stadia is not a very popular service, but if they keep releasing titles like Outcasters, I think there's a possibility to gain more ground, because it's a super fun title that I really enjoyed. At number 54, we have Fatal Fury, Garou, Mark of the Wolves. One of my favorite fighting games of all time. Again, it's a classic type of fighting game. I played this on Steam, the Steam version of the game. I did play this game already on the PS4 a couple of years ago when it got released there, but you can never grow old of a fighting game like Mark of the Wolves. It's just a fantastic, one of the best SNK fighting titles in my opinion in terms of gameplay. It's incredibly smooth and solid, and really a staple as far as SNK fighting games in my opinion. Number 55, a super short game called One Screen Platformer. This is also on Steam. Super short game. You can beat it in under 10 minutes. And the draw for this game is that it's speed running the level. You have 4 different characters. There's 2 difficulties, so in a way you have to play the game 8 times, if you will. But a super short game that you can get it for under $1. Highly recommend it if you guys see it on sale, and if you guys enjoy challenging platforming games, this is a pretty good option if you don't want to spend too much money. A very impressive game. At number 56, and to close out the year, I have The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky the third. I made myself a promise that I really wanted to complete the Trails in the Sky trilogy before the end of the year, and I did. I'm very happy I did. Third chapter is, in my opinion, the weakest out of the trilogy. I do have an impressions video on this if you guys want to hear my full thoughts on the game. But yeah, the game, unfortunately, it gets a little bit tiring towards the end, but nevertheless, fantastic game with great story, great character development, and fantastic world building. A must play, obviously, if you enjoy the Trails in the Sky games. Oh, and I forgot number 57. I forgot to mention it earlier. I guess I skipped it. The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening on the Nintendo Switch. I meant to do an impressions video on this game, but I was hoping to 100% complete the game, get all the shells throughout the island. And I might do that. I may go back to this game in 2021 and get all the shells, and then do a proper impressions video, because I really enjoyed Link's Awakening. I was never able to complete the original game, even though I owned it for the Game Boy Color. But now that the remake is out, I'm very glad that Nintendo put it out, because I really enjoyed the graphical style and the overall setup of the game. So that's it, guys. 57 games, record year here for me on my channel. Hopefully 2021 is as productive. We'll see. Yeah, this is a long video, obviously, with 57 games. Hopefully you guys made it to the end. Be on the lookout for my top games of 2020 in a couple of months from now, because I do have to replay or I have to play some of the bigger 2020 releases that I purchased at the end of the year, during Black Friday and the holiday season. So yeah, thank you guys for joining in. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all later. Take it easy.